This is Instant Clarity Podcast, the show where your life's questions get answered. My name is Tjaša Dorelay and I'm a channeling medium. Tell me, have you ever wondered what is the biggest secret of the civilization of Atlantis? In this episode, I'm channeling guardians of Atlantis, and they share with us the secrets of their existence. Listen to this episode and find out what they are. And dear conscious soul, we are guardians of Atlantis, and we are guarding the secrets of the civilization of Atlantis. We would like to start with an activation of the energies that the civilization of Atlantis anchored on this planet Earth. Allow your heart to open, allow your brain to receive the light code activation that has just passed through you, through your energy field. To understand the civilization of Atlantis, you have to understand that this civilization is no longer present on planet Earth. Obviously, the light codes are still here, and you can find the most powerful presence of these light codes on the west side of Africa and east side of South America, because at the time of the presence of Atlantis on planet Earth, those two continents were connected. So the planet itself had just two parts, water and land. And land was connected to one continent. And this was the first time when the consciousness of Atlantis visited planet Earth. And when the land separated, also the civilization separated. And this was the start of the decline of the civilization. Later on, the civilization still was present, but it was not as powerful as before. The main topic, the main theme of the Atlantis civilization was emerging of higher consciousness on planet Earth. Before that, before their arrival, planet Earth didn't hold as much consciousness or wisdom, the codes of information. And we could say that planet Earth was a young planet by that time. So the civilization of Atlantis was the first civilization that brought consciousness that was higher than the consciousness of the planet itself, that brought wisdom, light codes, information about other realms to the planet Earth. This is why when you connect to Atlantis itself, you can access those light codes, those information, which are not information from planet Earth, but information from the universe brought to the planet Earth. And the most powerful connection is to the eye of the universe, where we could say it's a library of all information and the codes, how the universe exists. The civilization of Atlantis came to planet Earth with the intention to bring the information from the eye of the universe to the planet Earth and activate birth of different civilizations that later came on the planet. The civilization of Atlantis was actually the first physical civilization that existed on planet Earth, and we could say they ignite other civilizations that came afterwards. Because as we said before, the Atlantis time, there was not enough information and light codes gathered on the planet to create human form of life. Obviously, the animal kingdom came before the human kingdom, and the plant kingdom came before, and the crystal kingdom came before, and so many other kingdoms were already on the planet when the first human form arrived, and the civilization of Atlantis was actually the first human form civilization. Well, if you could connect the way how the Atlantis people look to how you humans now look, you would say, well, they are not they don't look the same, obviously, because they hold a different consciousness. But again, they were the first ones who brought the consciousness of a human form on planet Earth. So what you have to understand about Atlantis civilization is that there were no laws, there were no rules like you know them right now, because their only intention was to create systems, to create connections, to create rules, meaning that before that there were no rules. And they were the first one who brought any kind of systems in the connection, in the relationship, in the civilization itself. Well, this might seem a little contradictory when we say they didn't have rules and now we say that they brought rules, but let us explain. So the rules that you know now, the rules of your country, the ethical rules, and so on, this was created later on. What Atlantis people brought, they were not actually people like you, but anyhow, what this civilization brought was the rules, how the information are spread. The rules, how the connection between people are made, the rules, the systems of a society. And their main symbol was a circle, meaning that the way how they created the society was in a circle. This can mean only that any person that was part of Atlantis civilization was connected to another person in the circle, and they together created everything that they were creating. Nowadays, you feel like you are one and only, and everything is on your shoulders, and you have to do something. But at that time, they knew the connection, and they knew that they could rely on the circle of people because they were creating a society in the circle. Nowadays, what you have is a system based on the pyramid, meaning that there is someone at the top or a few people at the top and then more and more people at the bottom. But the Atlantis civilization, they understood that the symbol of circle represent life the better, meaning that this is the best way how to depict the way of how life's energies circulate and work. This is why also their homes were formed in a circle. This is why they had connections with other people in a circle, also outside of their family connections. The connection to the primary family was not that important as it was the connection to your circle of people. And obviously there were more circles, the inner, the outer circle, and so on. And the most important thing for the Atlantis civilization was to co-create together, to do everything together, and to not kind of say you are an enemy, you are an outsider, we are in the inside circle. They understood that even though they had this connection in the inside circle, they always connected as a circle to other circle of people. The way how their bodies looked, well, they looked a little bit differently than your body looked. They were a little bit bigger, more taller, more lean structures of the body. They had a lot of magnetism in the mind, in the brain, not as much as in the heart. They knew and understood that through the brain, through the mind, they could co-create the existence in the outside realm. You have to understand that Atlantis civilization still exists, but not on planet Earth. Just their energy is still here, present in the light code of the land where they existed. Otherwise, they now exist in different planes of realities, and you can connect to them at any time, and you can connect to them through your brain because they were the masters of the programming. This is why they even came. They came to put programs on planet Earth. So every program that now exists was brought to this planet by the Atlantis civilization. So this is why their main magnetism was not in the heart, but it was in their brain. They could shift from one to another frequency of the brain, and they even had more frequencies in the brain that you have right now. So they were shifting from one to another frequency of the brain, reprogramming things and creating programs on the planet Earth. Their main job or their main purpose in life was not to form love connections, to not form relationships as you do now, but their main task was to create systems and to build things. Because their need was to show the consciousness of the planet what is possible. So they were creating things, and then when they built a certain thing, they went forward and built another thing and another thing, because they just needed to bring those consciousness on the planet of everything that can be created. So they were kind of creating, and then they were decreating what they created, and creating and decreating. So all the time they used the brain, their mind, to shift from different frequencies to anchor on this planet codes, formulas, ideas on how something can be created. They created that, and then they destroyed it. And many people think nowadays that they were destroyed because something bad happened, but actually they destroyed themselves because they understood that when the time came, when they needed to leave the planet because they've brought all the programs they needed to bring, they just destroyed themselves. So they just shifted from one plane of reality, the physical plane, to the energy plane, in an instant. So there were no wars, no fights, because this is not the consciousness of that civilization. When you look back, you maybe think that every civilization that has existed on the planet Earth was destroyed by some kind of war or by some kind of natural disaster. But the reality is that each civilization holds different consciousness, and the consciousness of civilization of Atlantis was so high that they had this ability to create themselves and then destroy themselves. So they just shifted forms. When they came to the planet, they came as a society, more human forms at the same time, and when they left, they all left at the same time. It was like when you switch on the light and you switch off the light. They emerged and then they disappeared. And maybe you're asking yourself, but how could they emerge? Who was the first Atlantis person? It is not like that. Your way of seeing the evolution and the biology of human race, it's so funny, because when something needs to materialize, it just materializes. There is no first person, and there is no Adam or Eve. There is just a materialization of a civilization in an instant, and this is how they materialized. From the energy plane of reality, they enter the energy field of planet Earth, and at the same time, the whole civilization has materialized on the planet. Everything started, as we said, when there was just one land, and when they brought many programs, and when they started creating things, what started happening is the consciousness of the planet started shifting. This is why also the natural law started shifting, and the land started shifting, so more continents were created. And they still stayed on the planet when the the change of the continents happened, but slowly and slowly they ended or destroyed their society because their purpose was finished, was concluded. The way how they approached life was really understanding the power of the brain, co-creating. They used the power of frequency, which is also the power of the voice, of the melody, of sound. They used the power of light, and they used glass a lot and crystals a lot because they understood that if you create a crystal grid to which you put the information in, those information can spread throughout the whole society, throughout the whole civilization and the whole planet much more powerfully and more quickly. So they use the natural ways of transforming the higher frequencies to touch the lower frequencies, and they really were here to create the systems and rules that are still in use nowadays. If you want to connect to the civilization of Atlantis, all you need to do is connect with the form of a circle, and you need to activate your brain to at least to theta waves. When you have activated theta waves in your brain and you start using circular crystals or crystals in a form of a ball, you can enter the consciousness of Atlantis through your deep, deep, deep meditation when you, through the form of a crystal ball, enter the sphere of the codes, especially if you go to the west side of Africa or east side of South America. There the codes are most potent. But you have to understand that even though the Atlantis civilization doesn't exist physically on the planet anymore, you can still reach them and connect with them. You can even connect to us. We are the guardians of the Atlantis civilization, meaning we are not Atlantis civilization, we just hold the codes and information about them. They are still there existing on different forms of reality, different planets right now, creating the same thing that they have created on planet Earth, bringing codes, information about how things are created from the eye of the universe, from this initial library of all the information to different planes of reality, so to different planets, let's say. So the life, the civilizations on those planets can start. In a way, we could say that Atlantis civilization was the beginning of your human race because they brought the codes that later on, later civilizations were able to feel, they were able to take, to create further on their own civilizations. To conclude, what you have to understand is that you have a very limited understanding of how civilizations really looked and how your civilization was created. And we understand that you have these, stories from history and you have the understanding of evolution and biology of your bodies. But, well, this is not a full story. If you want to understand the full story, your consciousness needs to enlarge, meaning that you need to shift from beta brain waves, where you are most of your time, to theta brain waves, where you will be able to see things previously not visible to you. Planet Earth really was lucky to hold a civilization as Atlantis, because otherwise, if that civilization wouldn't come to the planet, well, you wouldn't exist right now. They were the initial spark of human race, the human life, and they were the ones who brought all the codes of creation on the planet for humanity to be able to transform and evolve. With so much love, we are now closing this channeling by telling you a special message from Atlantis civilization. So just sink in, touch your heart, close your eyes and feel. Un ting kong ka, wan king kun ding a hiang kan dia, wan ting tong ka ala katapana, in tung ka ha liang king da a piang kan da ich kestana ka on pantana. Closing the energies, we guardians of Atlantis. I wish the ancient secrets you received today have touched your heart, expanded your consciousness, and inspired you to become conscious leader of your life. If they did, share this episode with your conscious friends so their consciousness can enlarge as well. And let's stay connected on Instagram at Tjaša Dorelay. And remember, your vibration creates your situation.